Welcome back to another Blue Jackets game reaction, this one for Game 42. I'm actually going to do a few things in this video. I'm going to explain how Crying Jordan is going to work in the thumbnails for these Jackets videos from now on, the Cry-teria for Crying Jordan. I'm also going to react to the game that happened last night. Obviously, that's kind of the gimmick of these videos. And then I'm going to talk about the goaltending situation, which, you know, if you don't care about the Crying Jordan in the thumbnail, if you don't want to relive this game, I don't blame you, and you want to skip straight to my thoughts on the goaltending situation, then I'll provide time codes in the time bar so you can skip right to whatever you want to hear about. But starting with Crying Jordan, I have kind of put this on the Jackets videos before, just kind of off of vibes, but now for the second half of the season, I'm giving the Jackets a criteria to where if the Jackets are at or below 500 in the second half of the season, which started with this past game, then Crying Jordan will be on the thumbnail for the Blue Jackets. And not NHL 500 either, where an overtime loss counts as even. If they have lost the same or more games than they have won, I will deem them under 500 and Crying Jordan will remain. But if they get above 500 for the second half of the season, for example, if they win their next two games, then Crying Jordan will leave until well, maybe they won't do that, but I'm guessing with how the season's going, until they reach or dip below 500 once again for the second half of this year. But to this game, the Jackets played a really boring, kind of a snoozer game last night against the Jets in Winnipeg. Final score of 5-0, where, yeah, Winnipeg is in the middle of a crazy hot streak for them. They're on a 13-game point streak now. They've won 11 of those 13. It's not a point streak that, you know, us Jackets fans are kind of used to, where they will lose in overtime for 4 of their last 6 games, where they have a couple wins thrown in there, and the broadcast team will say, well, the Jackets have gotten points in 6 straight, and it's like, well, okay, that's all fine and good, but there's a lot of losing in there. This Winnipeg Jet point streak is nothing like that. If you want to say they've won 11 of their last 13, I think that's just as impressive as saying they're on a 13-game point streak, in my opinion. But throughout this game, I never really felt like Columbus was exactly like soiling themselves on the ice or anything, but it did feel like the Jets were just a little bit of a better team throughout the entire game. And when you compound that kind of, I guess, winning interest, when you're just a step ahead of your opponent throughout an entire game, by the end of the game, you look like you're a league ahead of whoever you're facing. That's what the Jets did to the Blue Jackets last night. I thought that where that especially showed up was in how both of these teams played in their own end, with, you know, the Jets with their veteran coaching and the pieces that they have. They're usually able to clean up really any potential messes that they make in front of their goaltender in Connor Hellebuyck. Not a whole lot of silly turnovers. There doesn't seem to be any sort of instant sense of panic when they gather the puck in their own zone. They just kind of move it and try to get it into the next zone forward. If there is a mess to clean up, it does help to have a goaltender in Connor Hellebuyck, somebody like him, to bail the team out every now and then. That's what every goaltender is going to have to do, is going to have to, like, bail their team out every once in a while. And that's what I think this shutout can be traced to, where you have a team like the Jackets, who, in my opinion, they usually score off of some good individual effort, where there haven't been too many times this season where I can kind of recall a goal being scored off of just like a really good set play, or a team just kind of playing within a structure or some kind of rhythm for a while. It just seems like whenever the Jackets score a goal, it's because, you know, one or two guys made a couple of good plays and that ended with the puck in the net. But I thought Columbus last night, they just ran into a structure that stifled really anyone in a Blue Jacket uniform to make those kinds of plays. And even when Columbus did get good chances, and they got good chances sometimes, but didn't happen all that often, and especially didn't happen when the game was really all that close, Connor Hellebuyck was there pretty much having none of it. And, you know, you could tell late in that game, the Jackets, they were pressing to score a goal, really just to get that goose egg off of the scoreboard and try to avoid a shutout. But Connor Hellebuyck, when he had to be, nothing was getting past him. Sillinger did hit a post in the first period, but, you know, that's kind of a coulda, woulda, shoulda thing. You had the entire game ahead of you, had more chances to score goals, get one past there. Then I'm not going to feel sympathy for, I mean, it's too bad that Cole Sillinger didn't get that goal, but I'm not going to feel like sympathy for the team effort as a whole just because they hit a post in the first period that could have gone in. But the Jackets, they did keep this game close for a little bit. The second period really doing them in. They had a power play kind of in the earlier mid stages in that really did nothing. No shots on goal. Jethro, that momentum, getting some time in the Jackets zone, where eventually Cole Perfetti gets left all alone right in front of the Daniil Tarasov, and his goal made it 2-0. That really seemed to take a lot of steam out of the Blue Jackets in this one. Sean, I don't know why I said Sean, but Morrissey making it 3-0 shortly after the Jackets killed a penalty. And that was pretty much all she wrote for the game. The third period kind of played for, just because it's played for giggles and because it has to be sort of a formality for that game. But now that we got that out of the way, just kind of a ho-hum 5-0 loss to a team that's on a heater right now. Let's get into this goalie rotation a little bit, where it seems like Elvis Merzlikins hasn't really played in quite a while, and he's been healthy scratched for the past couple of games as well, so not even getting backup duty. I don't think he's played since that 6-5 overtime win against Toronto, where he's left early due to illness, but he hasn't really been listed on the injury report with an illness. He's just been kind of scratched the past couple of games. Now, this could be because the backup goaltender does do some pretty hard prep before games. They have to prepare as if they're going to be going in for the full 60 minutes at any point in time in that game. So maybe they'd rather have Spencer Martin waste that energy maybe than Elvis Merzlikins. You know, when you're doing all that prep and straining yourself, maybe you're risking injury, but I don't really see why that would be. That seems like it's a bit too cautious to have a guy like Elvis Merzlikins not going full hard in prep, even if it is to try to conserve energy a little bit. It could also just because, Pascal Vincent was asked about this, and he's saying that the goaltending situation is going to be based on merit. And Daniil Tarasov, he certainly had a couple of really good games against the Sabres and the Flyers before this. A bit shaky in the last one against Minnesota, and this one, while I don't think the end result was his fault or anything, that the Jackets didn't score any goals, letting in 5, not exactly a good sign there. But I also think there could be some underlying motivation to see if Tarasov can handle a starting workload, as there has been some speculation, again, nothing super concrete or anything, but there has been speculation that both Elvis and Columbus could be open to a bit of a change of scenery for Elvis, maybe not in the immediate future of this season, but just in general in the future moving forward. You also had Pascal Vincent publicly calling him out for his actions in the overtime game of the Capitals game, where he did that thing against Tom Wilson and put the Jackets on the penalty kill, and Ovechkin scored on the power play following that in overtime. Maybe that's created some sour grapes, although maybe it's like a sort of a straw that broke the camel's back between the two sides. Although it is strange how Elvis, he has gotten time in net since then. Like, that Toronto game happened well after the incident against the Capitals. So it's, this is at the speculation stage. Maybe it's just simple as seeing what Daniil Tarasov can do with more consecutive starts and a bit of a heavier workload than the Jackets have really been able to give him in his time in North America. Maybe they're just riding the hotter hand with Daniil Tarasov having those games against Philadelphia and Buffalo. But I think it is weird to see the goaltender who is being paid starting goaltender money, his contract, he's well into this contract now, and Elvis Merzlikins, he is having a much better season than it was last season, where last year we're talking about Elvis Merzlikins as being a complete, just like might as well have been like a cardboard cutout in net. But I feel like Elvis Merzlikins has definitely stepped up a little bit in net this year. It's kind of strange to see a goaltender like that not getting any time in the net as of recent times. And while nothing has been officially reported about a trade amping up involving him, I certainly wouldn't be surprised if we started to hear a bit more rumors circulating now that it's getting a little bit strange that Elvis Merzlikins, again, hasn't really played in quite a while, despite his contract kind of saying that he should be at least getting some time with Daniil Tarasov. I know the Jackets will say that they don't base rosters and playing time off of contracts, but if you look at how they've determined some of their starting rosters and their moves, they kind of do to a certain extent, just like every other NHL team, in my opinion. But Merzlikins' contract definitely makes any trade talks about him pretty complicated, where I feel like his contract is a little bit of a paradox, where if he is playing up to that contract as a starting goaltender and he's rolling and he's doing well, you don't really want to trade him unless you think that the improvements he's making is unsustainable. Where if you think Elvis Merzlikins, if you're thinking of like a sell high, where if you don't think that his current play is going to persist throughout the lifetime of the contract, then maybe you want to move on from that while you can. But honestly, I think if even the improved Elvis Merzlikins this year, if this is where it plateaus, or if it's going to get even worse than this, then I am still looking at the contract with a little bit of a side eye. I'm not really, while Elvis Merzlikins, again, I've said he's been better a few times now in this video, and he has been, but I don't necessarily think it's been as good as the Jackets were even hoping for when they first signed that contract. But if Elvis Merzlikins is playing badly like he was last season, and you want to move on from that contract as soon as you can, the cap hit and the contract in general and the term, that is going to pretty much turn off every single other NHL team who would even think about trading for him, where in order to get that contract moved, you'd probably have to retain that cap hit for multiple years, at least 50% of that, and you'd still probably have to add other assets just to receive future considerations, aka nothing. So, I mean, and even with this improved play of Elvis Merzlikins, I'm not exactly convinced enough that he will be able to sustain this play for, you know, years 3, 4, and 5 of this contract. I'm not really even sure what Elvis we're going to get, you know, game to game, week to week, let alone season to season. So I'm not convinced enough to be super against the idea of trading the contract of Elvis Merzlikins, although the goaltender in person of Elvis Merzlikins, I hate the idea of seeing him leave. I want this to work out for him in Columbus, just because pretty much ever since he's been here, he has been all about Columbus, and he's been really determined to try to make this work. And I don't take any pleasure in saying that he's, you know, underperforming his contract, and there are talks about trading him, because I do think, you know, in my perfect like storybook ending, I do think that Elvis, you know, makes that next step and becomes that elite goaltender that we saw flashes of early in his NHL career. It just isn't panning out that way right now. And again, maybe he starts on Saturday versus Seattle and he looks good, and all this speculation is put to bed, and Elvis Merzlikins plays great. And I'm saying, you know, in a few days, well, I sound like an idiot right now again. There's no way they're going to be trading him at least anytime soon. Maybe in the offseason talks return, but you know, that's a conversation that could be had after Saturday, and it's not Saturday yet. This is just where I am right now on a Wednesday after a 5-0 loss, where, you know, the human Elvis Merzlikins, where I feel like some of the fan base has been a bit unnecessarily harsh against him, and especially some members of his family as well for whatever reason. But yeah, that contract number, and if this is where his play plateaus and it doesn't really get much better than the Elvis Merzlikins we're seeing right now, I'm not quite sure if moving on from that contract would be the worst idea, but that's just where I am. You can let me know how you feel about it down in the comments below, and that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far into the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'd like to see more like it. I cover some other teams in Ohio as well. Maybe you like those videos too, but once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you at the next one.